Tom, it seems to me every retail organization really has a sales culture. Perhaps they don't define it as such, but they do whether they know it or not.
And I think that's the key, whether they know it or not. You know, many times you go into a business and ask them what it is, and they kind of look at you blankly. But the perception outwardly, you know, we have two perceptions, I think, as far as sales culture. One's inward, and that's the staff currently we have and how they view the processes. The other is, you know, what the outward perception among their customers and to even a greater extent the general public may be, because, you know, they are judging us as well. One test of an outward sales culture is how long does it take to fill vacancies. You know, a lot of companies in this world, boy, when they announce they're opening a store, or if they post, you know, I'll pick on a famous one, Southwest Airlines, they post job openings and they have, you know, hundreds if not thousands sometimes of people applying for that job. You know, are they grossly paying more than anybody else in their industry? I don't think so. You know, is the job largely the same? Are the hours largely the same? Absolutely. So why do people want to work there and not elsewhere? And a lot of it has to do with the attitude that permeates throughout the organization.
So I think what you're really talking about is it's a nice place to work, it's a fun place to work, and they like it for that reason.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the balance we all need to find is that, you know, we have to be serious. I mean, we come to work, we got obligations. We got personal obligations, we've got corporate obligations, we have obligations to our customer who place their trust in us. But that doesn't mean we have to be, you know, just serious as a heart attack all the time. You know, you can have fun and still do your work in a very serious and focused manner. Many stores don't seem to be able to make that differentiation.
Do you think stores think about what their culture is, their sales culture is, and work to make it a certain way? Or does this happen by virtue of neglect or by who you hire?
Well, I don't even know so much as who you hire as is it, you know, who hired them. There's a saying, you know, the teams take on the personality of their coach. We see this all the time, you know, in professional sports. This could be, you know, teaching a class or, you know, conducting a high school play. Whatever it may be, you know, you're going to tend to get the reaction from those who are under your charge. So if, you know, you are just walking around kicking the can, you know, nervous and worried and busy all day, well, how do you think your staff's going to respond? Mm-hmm. Which doesn't, again, mean that you don't be serious. But, you know, you can have fun. I think what we have to be able to do to create a good culture within a business is to be able to accept somebody doing something approximately correct. You know, we all know that we're supposed to celebrate successes. Now and then I think it's okay to celebrate, you know, minor failure. Because if you don't ever fail, you're not trying. Like they said, I heard a famous baseball player said one time, if you're hitting 1,000%, you're playing in the minor leagues. You know, you're at the wrong level of competition. So, you know, you got to accept that you're not going to succeed every time. But how do we learn from that? And it's okay if you lose one now and then to say, okay, let's go back, boy, I screwed that up. Just so you don't repeat the process. But, you know, as manager, walk around, catch people doing something approximately correct. And take that and then build upon it. And then you can be more focused, you can be creative. You can be creative in your praise, but you can also be creative in your criticism. But remember, you're supposed to criticize the act and not the actor. If I come up and say, Dave, what's wrong with you? Can't you do better than that? You know, I criticized you, and you're immediately going to get defensive. But if I come up and say, Dave, you know, you're a pro at what you do, but boy, that last question you asked me, you know, that was kind of weak. We need to work on that a little. Then I criticize the act and not the actor itself. Same way when we're working with our sales staff. If we say, you know, you did this right, you know, that was largely a good presentation, but I think maybe we need to focus on this element of it. I heard you say one thing that wasn't particularly strong or wasn't particularly correct. You can do that, and, you know, you're figuratively still smiling. You're figuratively can kind of put your arm around them and say, you know, you're getting there, you're making progress. Mm-hmm. What do we do when we raise a kid? For example, boy, when they first start walking, you know, it's come to Papa, you know, and they stagger and they fall and we laugh and we got to take videos and send them to Grandma and all that. Well, it's not too long that sort of behavior is not acceptable anymore. And if you got a high school kid who's walking down the hall bouncing off the walls, you're disappointed in them, but it's okay when they start. So when we have staff that we're bringing along, we need to be able to find them doing something approximately correct, praise them, just like the little toddler. He said, "That's good. Now let go." You know,
Yeah.
just now let go of the coffee table, or, you know, let go of the training wheels on the bicycle. You know, we establish culture with our staff in much the same fashion. You build it every day.
On the front end, do you think the owner, manager should define what his expectations are in terms of sales approach?
Sure.
And, you know, and how tight should that be?
And, you know, it's sales approach, but I'm not even sure it's maybe necessarily a stated sales approach so much as what the expectations are for your behavior. Certainly we have to have a process. And you know, I always say that the ideal way is to be able to act scripted in an unscripted manner. And by that I mean, you know, yes, we treat everybody consistently, but it doesn't look like we're a robot. It doesn't look like, you know, we're just repeating it as we were taught. So, you know, that you can be consistent, but make it look personal and make it look spontaneous. I think the manager also, though, he has to walk the walk himself. There's a saying I often like to use. I said, you know, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. So, you know, don't tell me what to do. Let me observe the correct way to behave.
One of the things when I hear the word culture, I've been in stores where I see the salesperson almost immediately go to what's on special or a low-end product without really asking any questions. And that would seem to me to reflect the store culture, even if it's only that one person doing it.
Well, it either means they're poorly trained or they're lazy. One or the other, you know, and that is the culture. My guess is they're going to something they're comfortable with. They're going to something they feel like they're not going to get told no. They're going towards something, you know, that they think their success rate will be higher. It won't be. The success rate won't be a bit higher. It's easier. And, you know, we all tend to fall back if we're not prodded a little bit into our comfort zone, and they find that to be comfortable. You're doing nobody any favors. I mean, I don't know why anybody would accept that for long. I mean, it all has to start with the customer. I mean, selling somebody something that's cheaper on sale is seldom in the customer's best interest. Store can't generate the revenue. You can't generate the paycheck. I mean, who wins here? It's just a lazy way to work.
It's something you really have to stay on top of, it would seem.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you do it every day, and, you know, the good companies stay very flexible. They stay flexible in their, you know, in their processes. You know, if there's something I hate to be told as a customer is we have a policy. You know, policy should be felt, but your policy shouldn't necessarily have to be stated. You know, the policy is something that people will execute every day, but not have to remind the customer of in the vast majority of the cases. You know, policies are there. It's okay to bend them. You know, the really good companies, unless something just goes against their core standards, you know, they will allow some deviation and so forth, because usually that's in the customer's best interest, and I find when something's in the customer's best interest, ultimately it benefits the store and the salesperson as well.